Hey, welcome to Breaking Bread, hosted by me, Crunk Chocolate, a show where we break verbal bread with a quote unquote enemy. Whenever Manchester City has an upcoming match, I will be here having a conversation with a supporter of City's upcoming opponents. In 2025, we have moved Breaking Bread, our match preview series, to Patreon. And if you're hearing it now, it's the first 15 minutes. So if you're enjoying this conversation, or there have been any of our previous 15-minute tastes of our Patreon shows that you've enjoyed, just go ahead and subscribe to the $6 tier, and you will get tons of premium, original content that is just for you, you sweets. So yeah, we're building that up, working on a Discord for that. We have a nice little merch sale that's coming on, so you'll get a discount for that. First dibs as well, and any other goodies that you'll be wanting for Patreon. When I go, shout out to the family of FanFest. When I go to England, I have some things set up on the works, so a lot of that will be hidden behind the Patreon. And I'll share a photo, a little taste, a little tease, but I'm going to be doing some really cool things. And the beauty of Patreon, I don't have to edit so much. I can just leave it be, let it the language, the fun, all of those things, because it's hidden behind Patreon. Those are the people who truly want to support you and don't want to hate and all those other things. And also, that's kind of the beauty of Patreon, is behind the scenes amazing access that people don't get. So truly, we have a few more things announced on the Patreon, so just go ahead, check it out. Support an independent podcast. Wonderful show for you, though, outside of Patreon. Let's move on to this show. Manchester City, Chelsea. We just fell apart against PSG, and now we have to go deal with these young rapscallions who just like to run up and down the pitch against Chelsea. Oh my gosh. I can't wait for all of I guess I haven't seen it as much, but all the Enzo Pep comparisons and all that other stuff that will probably happen a million times from the commentary during the match. But to talk about this team, learn a little bit more about the Cole Palmer FC. I have nobody else who I would rather talk about this club with. And we've had them on before, Shady Gang. You know them. You love them. Hey, and it's a different shade of blue, so that's nice. It's not, at least it's not red. So we got that going for them. Give it up for Andy from Flag Stays Down podcast. How are you?
Awesome. Hey, I appreciate you bringing me on again. I always have a great time chatting with you. Get the better end of it the last couple times I've been on with the City results, but who knows tomorrow? It's been a weird season for both of us.
Yeah, I mean, y'all started off so hot, and I mean the expectations were already low, and then started playing so well. Then it was like, oh shoot, should we expect more from the team? And now you're kind of seeing, no, this is about expected. But again, just an incredibly young team, kind of patched together, including your manager. It is expected that there are going to be ups and downs.
Yeah, absolutely. Enzo Maresca was saying for weeks, no, we're not in a title race. We're not ready to be in a title race. And, no one in the media was ready to believe him. But, it's the youngest team in the Premier League. It's a team that's been cobbled together over a year and a half, 2 years. And so absolutely we're not in a title race. But being back in the top 4, top 5, that's nice. I'll take that.
Yeah, taking our spot. So somebody's got to have to get out of the way. It's either y'all or Nottingham Forest. I don't really care who, but one of y'all got to get out of the way for us. Let's start here with, why do you love, and it doesn't necessarily mean you can't tell me how you became a Chelsea fan, but I like the whole what is something about Chelsea that you do love, or you take pride in the fact with this club?
Yeah, so I, like a lot of Chelsea fans in America, I came on at the beginning of the Abramovich era when it was first starting to be televised. You get your 1 or 2 games a week that you could watch in the Premier League here in America, and yet the thing that always got me was, especially at the start, was Jose Mourinho and his demand to be a winner, his demand to be champions, to come home with silverware. And actually it carried over from manager to manager to manager to manager. The club just has almost a mandate to go out and at least try to compete. Last couple of years have been rough, but they've invested in the club to try to make it a winner. And I'll take that all day, every day, because my other sports teams, thinking about the Chicago White Sox specifically, refuse to invest in winning, and so it's a nice change of pace across the pond.
Yeah, very sorry for you, bud. The White Sox, that's tough. Yeah, that's true fandom right there.
Right.
Even with all of the other, I'm a Packers fan. They've had success before, and then Celtics fan. Yeah, they haven't recently, but St. Louis Cardinals, Detroit Red Wings, both haven't done great. Specifically, the Detroit Red Wings. They might be figuring things out. They seem to be decent again, but also that happens and then they fall off a cliff. So I'm just kind of patiently just watching from afar. But yeah, even all the other teams, I don't have an MLS side. I tried. I'm not giving this up. Crunk petulance is popping out again. I wanted to give Chicago Fire some love, and they came at me real sassy on Blue Sky, and I wasn't really expecting that. So I was like, all right, fuck you guys. I guess I'm just going to be an NYCFC fan. So I'm gonna try to support them a little bit, and they're part of CFG, so that makes sense. But it was like too easy. It was like, why don't you just do this? And I was like, the Chicago Fire is right there. It's still a 3-hour drive, but it's there. I go to Chicago often, so now I'm just gonna go to Chicago NYCFC game, and I'm just gonna be ridiculous to Chicago Fire, like it's smoke, at least for the whole season with them for now on.
Hey, they deserve it unless they go out and get Neymar. Then they might have something.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe they were tied to that. It's just like, they'd still be terrible, but at least they'd have Neymar.
Right.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Enzo Maresca. Snatched him from Leicester City. He was, before he left for Leicester City, or left for you guys, he was like, I'm not leaving Leicester City. I love this place. It's so great. It's so great. And then all of a sudden he's just like, bye. Everybody saw it coming and it made sense. And how has the Enzo, obviously it's been great, but from a fan standpoint, how has the Enzo Maresca era at Chelsea been?
When you look at it on paper, it's been very successful compared to similar fixtures last year under Pochettino. We're currently 9 points ahead of where we were last year, which I'll take a 9-point advantage over any year over year. That's fantastic. But with Pochettino last year ending on a high note, I think they won their last 5 or 6 games in a row, and then going out and signing a championship manager. It's been a divide from a fan base. Even on our podcast, the Flag Stays Down podcast, it's been split. Whether or not Maresca has what it takes to manage a big club like Chelsea. I'm in the camp that he's there. He comes from City Football Group. He's managed quite a few of these players at some points in their career. He's won a domestic trophy in England. And Chelsea have a great history with Italian managers. So he has my trust until we don't qualify for Europe is basically where I'm sitting.
So like any of the UEFA competitions you're all right with then? Obviously Champions League is the goal, but you'd be okay with like Europa. our whatever the third one is.
Yeah, and we're currently in that no name third one. Hopefully, we win that, and then it's automatic Europa and can go from there. Champions League is obviously the goal. But going into the season, I was thinking we'd finish probably 6th or 7th. Currently sitting, I believe, 4th at the moment. I would take that in a heartbeat. But if they drop back to 6th or 7th and end up in Europa, it's still progress.
Yeah, well, and I'm like, look, obviously City, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Brighton would have to go on a crazy run, and Chelsea would have to fall apart. And those two things happening at the same time, I just don't see that happening. That would be the only way you would fall out of any Europa. And really, the only team that I trust to get ahead of you all is Man City, and that's just because they've done it for so many years. How they have been recently doesn't say it, but I'm just trying to think about history. They did a lot of serious retooling over January, and I think it'll be very important this final half of the season. So I mean, I think that'll be good, because also depending on how the Champions League goes, could have 5, maybe even 6 if City can still get in there into the playoff and get into the knockout round. Could end up having at least 5 teams in the Champions League next year. So then you wouldn't have to worry about being 4th. You could be 5th type of vibe. So you might be good.
Yeah, I think Champions League is kind of icing on the cake for Chelsea. The sporting directors, when they first came on, they told us, the fans, hey, give us 4 windows before you evaluate us. Kind of like a college football recruiting kind of deal. This is the 4th window. This is January. We haven't done anything. It's the 4th window, and so if you want us to evaluate you after this one, it's got to be Champions League or barely missing out and then making the Europa League. It's got to be one or the other.
No, that's fair. That's very fair. Let's talk about Chelsea's current form, because of the fact that we're about to face y'all. And what have you? 3-1 win over Wolves, man. Fucking Wolves. They, with their new manager, everybody was so high on them, and they're Wolves. Come on now. Like, I always say, people dislike Everton a lot, for many reasons. I have that kind of just like strong hatred for Wolves. And it's just because they just feel like a very unserious side. So when Chelsea started beating them down and everybody was shocked, I was like, no, Wolves aren't good just because they got a new manager. They do this all the time. They get a new manager, they're good for a month, and then they go back to being shit and somehow staying in the Premier League for another season.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Portuguese B team, right? And so you can't be serious, in the Premier League with a squad like that, especially when Chelsea signed their best player this summer in Pedro Neto.
Yes.
I honestly didn't put a whole lot of stock into the Wolves match, other than the fact that it bucked what has been a trend at Chelsea in the last probably 4 or 5 matches. I think going back to Boxing Day, Chelsea scored first, usually in the first 20 minutes, and then took their foot off the gas, allowed other teams to stay in the match, allowed other teams to get that equalizer, and then it looks like we're out of gas. So a lot of draws, a lot of losses, a lot of losing from a winning footing. So Wolves, we scored. Wolves come down to the pitch and score about 15 minutes later. I'm like, oh gosh, here we go again. So that's the only little bit of stock I will put into that Wolves match. Is the second half was fantastic. The team looked energized, which is something they haven't looked for the last couple of weeks. So I'm thinking maybe that's a sign that things are turning a corner. But as you mentioned, it's not a serious side. So who knows?
Hey, but a win is a win. And yeah, even with the like you were saying, the inconsistencies with the team. It's just like the Bournemouth are good though. So like drawing to them, that makes sense. Probably should have beat Crystal Palace, but Crystal Palace at home, they're tough. The loss to Fulham, that that was the Boxing Day match. But ever since then, what happened with that loss to Fulham? Because I mean, they're a tough side, but it was at home.
Yeah, and that was another one where we go out, and I think it may have been Cole Palmer scored the opener, and we scored early, kind of take the foot off the gas, miss several chances throughout the